Hi, I'm Michael Wargo, team pilot with Precision Aerobatics. And today we're going to do something I think is going to be really informative. I probably should have done this a long time ago. This is my friend John here. He is really interested in learning how to get started in 3D and maybe learn to hover. So what I'm going to do is, live while I'm helping him and explaining things to him, I'm going to try and teach him the basics of what's involved in getting started to hover, so he could take his foamy or something like that and start actually practicing it or practice it on the simulator. So here we go.
Thank you, Mike.
The big skill with hovering that actually gets you there is this. Harrier, fly slow, nose up in the air, right? So that's the first critical skill, is to be able to just fly around slow, just like this, in that Harrier configuration, right? So the thing is, if you just can, you see the elevator kind of adjusting the nose angle? The throttle is adjusting the altitude. So you can hear the throttle going up and down. So I can control this at a very fine level, you know, almost like you have a volume control or an altitude control, which is your throttle.
I see.
So I'm keeping it at exactly the altitude that I want. There's a little wind blowing it around, but anyway. So what's happening is, once I find a sweet spot on the throttle, I either hold the sweet spot or flex it a little bit to keep that nose up in the air. Now, the thing is, it's really difficult to do this until you practice doing it. Now, the first thing I want you to do when you start to learn to hover is this. Once you go up at altitude, really high, I mean really high, right? I flip it over, you can get here any way you want, but look, I cut the throttle completely and I have full elevator. So I'm not doing anything really but letting the plane just kind of fall down, okay? Now I'm going to start adding some power, okay? And now what's going to happen is the sink rate is arresting, okay? Now I'm going to release the elevator a little bit, and as I put the power on, I can just stop the altitude at whatever altitude I want. I could stop it. So what this looks like in a bit faster motion, is full elevator, and now I'm going to start the throttle. The throttle is what's going to help keep the wing rock and everything away. So now here I am, you see? Now I'm just adjusting the throttle, and as I get closer to the ground, I just add more. That's it. Now when you add too much, it goes up in the air, okay? So if you just want a Harrier, you have to avoid, once you start adding throttle, you're going to have to release some of the elevator, otherwise it will just point straight up, okay? So first step, so you go onto your simulator and you practice this maneuver, up, pull it over, fall straight down with no throttle, full elevator, right? And then add throttle to stop it. There, I stopped. You know, you won't be as elegant with it or anything as I'm doing, but but you'll learn. And then when you get to the simulator, see if you could try and stop it pretty close to the ground. Because if you could stop it closer to the ground, you'll have a much better feel for exactly the effect of the throttle. So watch as I get closer, 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 closer. Now watch, I'm going to start adding and subtracting elevator. There we go. See, we're stopping right there. Perfect.
Nice.
Okay, now, the second step to learning how to hover is to get it up in a hover. Most people tend to want to do this. Watch this, John. They want to just slam it like this, and that doesn't work. What happens is, like, it works to a degree, but it makes the plane just go straight up in the air, and it makes it climb. The reason you see me like going very close to the ground and standing it up almost in the same spot is because I'm just getting good at that throttle.
And it looks good.
Exactly, I'm getting used to the throttle. So what I want you to do is get it into that configuration again. We're going to go over the top, we're going to come down, and once we get here, you want to, and you level it off. Now you're level. All I want you to do is just pull back on the elevator and add a little throttle. Okay? That didn't work out very well. So we're going to do it again. We're going to start down. I have full elevator. We're going to add a little throttle until eventually it just wants to stand up. And now I'm up in a hover.
The wind is getting you.
Yeah, the wind is throwing me around a little bit. Okay.
Very nice.
But that's really all there is to it. Now I'm going to show you that really low to the ground. Okay, we're going to pull it down. So again, the second part of this is to get this plane into the wind or away from you to where the wings are facing you, the canopy's facing you. Just stand it up and push on the throttle. Again, it's harder than it looks, or than I'm making it look, because I've done it to, a million times. So all we want to do is we want to slow the plane down. We're going to do it right here at that altitude.
Yeah.
Slow it down. We're going to add our throttle and just keep adding it until it stands up. And that's really it.
That's great.
Even, coming from like an inverted harrier like this, we're going to do exactly the same thing. We're going to let the plane harrier, and then I'm just going to add throttle and stand it up.
Very nice.
Remaining 3 minutes.
Now, the last problem you're going to have, again, that's something that you have to practice as well. The last problem you're going to have is when the plane goes left or right, what do? Okay, that was your big concern, is you don't know what so the way to start to kind of understand the rudder is to simply fly straight up, wag it left, wag it right. So now it's vertical, right?
Oh, you're not using no
Left,
aileron.
right,
Just,
right, just left and right, and just watch it.
I see.
Okay, now once you're stopped, watch it. You see it's tilting left,
Right,
you push a
go
little right. Push a right, go a little left.
Nice.
And basically, the way to practice it is climb up slowly until it finally just stops climbing. Okay?
Yeah.
It's not the way I suggest you learn to hover necessarily, because we're going to be too high, but go up, climb slowly, waggle it. Okay, it's out of condition, back in. And just keep practicing pushing it back. Because the throttle is on, and because it's climbing, it's not going to be out of control.
Right. Nice.
So when you get down to the ground, and we're gonna do it really low, you'd be surprised how obvious the movements are going to be. In fact, if you watch as it gets, I'm going to pull it up into a hover. Okay.
Yeah.
Now you can see it leaning to the right a little bit, right?
Right.
So we're going to go back.
Yeah.
If you see it pulling towards you, push the other way. And you can even practice getting in and out of those positions. You see?
Right.
Just move it. Move the sticks around. So, now once you get in a position where you are starting to hover a little bit, the key is very small movements, and not overcorrect. Why is it falling down? There we go. So, very small movements, just offset everything it's doing. You can see I'm not, the wind is blowing it around a little bit.
Yeah, the wind's coming from your back, coming out of the south.
But basically, I mean, you can control this hover in a lot more of a fine resolution than you might think.
Yeah.
Because once you learn how to harrier a little bit, you see?
Yeah.
Once you learn how to do this, you can kind of start and stop it wherever you'd like. That kind of thing.
Yeah.
And even with this harrier roll, I'm just kind of watching, or not a harrier roll, but a torque roll.
Right.
As I'm watching the torque roll, I'm just making very slight adjustments to keep it steady. And after you learn how to do this, right, watch the plane twirl, see?
Yeah.
I'm just making slight adjustments and just letting it turn on its own. Slight adjustments. And that's just experience and practice. You know what I mean?
See.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Anyway, it's a tricky skill to learn. You got to learn it up high.
Yeah.
Just let it stop and then watch it and make the adjustments. One last little tip is most people, when they learn to hover, are very concerned with making sure it doesn't fall. But I think the best thing to concentrate on is trying to make sure it doesn't climb. You know, you'll see if it's falling down that you have to add more throttle, but everybody gets to here and then just starts going like that because they're afraid of falling.
Right.
Next thing you know, they're 25 feet off the ground.
I see. Yeah.
In this case, you know, the hover looks good when it's really close to the ground, doesn't it?
Oh yeah, it looks great.
The moral of the story is you get on your simulator, you climb straight up, and watch the aircraft. You have to learn to get that skill to harrier, like we talked about. And then once you are familiar with the way the nose is moving, then you can really start working more and more on the throttle to be able to keep it level. And again, small movements and a lot of throttle control, and sooner or later you get it.
Yeah. You need a lot of elevator to do that.
Yes.
Harrier?
Yeah. Yeah. You should have a plane with all the elevator you can get.
Yeah.
You don't use it constantly, but if you've got no speed, you need that extra elevator because you're only dealing with prop wash now.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
when this plane is flying at a normal speed, it barely uses that much elevator ever.
Right.
All the rest is only for that stalled. When the plane is stalled,
And the Harriers
right?
use a lot of,
Yeah, when the plane is stalled, it needs a lot of
and
throw.
the CG is basically neutral.
Yes, I always fly them neutral.
So
It's
some 3D guys like it a little tail heavy.
it's all in their head.
Oh,
Yeah,
right.
they think it helps, but it really doesn't.
Oh,
Yeah.
Thank you, Mike.
Yeah,
You've been
you're
a
welcome.
big help.